We're joined by Oklahoma Senator Markwayne Mullin. Senator Markwayne Mullin. I'm sorry, Senator Mullin, rather. Well, also correct. Good to have you on, Senator.
Buck, thanks for having me on. And anything works, but you don't have to call the title. Markwayne, Mullin, idiot, fool, all those work. I'll answer to them all. Just ask my wife.
I believe you are an MMA fighter, so I'm going to pass on the idiot, but I will definitely keep in mind that you are not one who stands on ceremony and formality. So thank you for that.
Yes.
But tell me this. I mean, look, I don't know. I'm sure you know what this is like. You're a United States Senator. Sometimes you get a little caught in the crossfire on some things. On the one hand, we have people from the Trump White House on, and they're talking about the big, beautiful bill, the great things it will do, the boom in the economy they believe it will bring about, take-home pay for homes, all that stuff. The other side, we have had your colleague, Senator Rand Paul on. We've had your colleague, Senator Ron Johnson on. And they're saying, look, there's some great stuff, but spends too much money. Where does the big, beautiful bill stand now on the Senate side? Walk us through what's going on, what you like, what maybe needs to change, and what we should expect.
Well, first of all, I mean, this bill's been getting negotiated since November, so this isn't anything new. Everybody's had time to put their input, and they're going to have more time to put their input. So I got all the respect in the world for Ron Johnson and Rand Paul. But the truth is, their ideas are great, but it's their idea, and they're going to have to get 51 people to agree with them. And so what we've got issues here is that we have Obama /Biden era policies. And I mean that sincerely because, Biden is just, an extension of the Obama era policies, except worse. So that's what we're currently operating underneath. And now you have the Trump policy era that's trying to come in place. And we do that through reconciliation. We all want to cut more spending. I mean, being fiscally responsible is honestly what we all want to do. But the House bill cuts $1.6 trillion from deficit spending, and that's true deficit spending. Now, I've been up here for way too long. I served in the House for 10 years and now 2 years in the Senate. And I can tell you every time we've always had deficit cuts, it's always been a 10-year cut, right? It's going to save $500 billion over 10 years, and we never actually achieved a 10-year cut. This is $1.6 trillion cutting immediately. So it doesn't balance the budget, but it does move forward. And as we move forward with this bill, hopefully we can even do better. Hopefully we can get to $2 trillion in cuts. Except at the same time, we're trying to implement, campaign promises too. And the American people want the Trump policies that he campaigned on. And one of them is no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and no tax on Social Security. Well, that adds cost too, and so you got to take it in and out. In reconciliation, we can only deal with taxes and mandatory spending, not discretionary spending. So we got a narrow window to what we can actually work with. That's why it's called reconciliation and requires 51 votes. Where a budget, which will start on, the budget. Our discretionary spending moving forward right after this, and that's a 60 vote threshold. So my point that I'm trying to get to, Buck, is that we have a very narrow window that we can work with. We're going to get all the cuts we can possibly get. At the end of the day, when this bill goes to the floor, this one big, beautiful bill that we've been working on since November, and everybody's had their fingerprints on, everybody's had an opportunity to put their input on, we're going to put whatever's on the floor that can get 51 votes so we can get away from the Biden era policies and move forward to the Trump era policies, which is we're seeing the economy respond to already, and we haven't even passed the bill yet.
I wanted to have you react, Senator Mullin, to what Senator Paul says here about 4 Republicans who he believes will not go along with the bill as it stands. This is cut 3 team. Play it. Team.
I think there are 4 of us at this point, and I would be very surprised if the bill at least is not modified in a good direction. Look, I want to vote for it. I'm for the tax cuts. I voted for the tax cuts before. I want the tax cuts to be permanent. But at the same time, I don't want to raise the debt ceiling $5 trillion. So I've told him if you take the debt ceiling off the bill, in all likelihood, I can vote for what the agreement is on the rest of the bill, and it doesn't have to be perfect to my liking, but I can't be. If I vote for the $5 trillion debt, who's left in Washington that cares about the debt? We will have lost. The GOP will own the debt once they vote for this.
What do you make of that, Senator?
Well, we're going to have to raise the debt. You know, it's kind of like taking over a failing business, right? When you take over a failing business, you don't just start making money day one. You have to invest in it, and that's why you bring in investors, and investors are expecting you to get a return, and that's what the American people did. They invested in the Republican Party and expecting a return, but you can't just simply turn it around. The Biden administration spent like drunken sailors. We had almost every single agency under the last 4 years has increased from 50 to 100% in what they're receiving for their budget in 4 years. So we're cutting everybody's budget and we're bringing down the debt, but you can't just simply say that we're going to have enough money to balance the budget immediately. We're going to have to borrow more money. And I think in two and a half, maybe 3 years, we can balance it, and we won't have to borrow any money if we continue down the Trump policies that he's put forth. But you can't do it now. And so I don't know what Rand Paul wants us to do, because we are in debt, and the debt limit is going to hit us regardless of what we do. If we pass this bill or we don't, it's going to hit us. And so we have two choices as Republicans. We can put the debt limit increase on reconciliation and only have to have 51 votes, meaning that we can do this without the Democrat support. Or we wait and we do it on a budget bill, or we do it as a standalone, and we got to have 60. So now we're going to have to negotiate with Chuck Schumer and the Democrats to get them to give us 7 or maybe even more votes. And probably more than likely, by the time we negotiate with them, there's going to be a lot of Republicans that aren't going to want to vote for it. And so instead of just having 7, we're going to end up having to have 15 or 20 Democrats. Now, can you imagine what type of deal we'll have to strike with them? Because we're going to raise the debt limit regardless. We're going to raise the debt limit. We're going to raise it. If we raise it $4.5 trillion, I will be willing to tell you, Buck, right now, we'll have to raise it again another $2.5 trillion. And so I feel like we should just go ahead and raise the debt limit enough that we know if the numbers continue to grow the way they are, with the GDP growing, with the debt decrease in deficit spending, because we're doing 1.6 off of discretionary or off of mandatory, and then when we start doing the budget bills, we can even do more off discretionary spending. By those two graphs, they're going to meet in about 2.5 or 3 years, and it'll be the first time that a president has balanced the budget since Clinton. But we're going to have to borrow the money to get to that point. So, like I said, we can do it now and negotiate with Republicans only, or we're going to do it later, because there is no C. There's either A or B, because C means we default, and we're not going to default on the money we spent. We spent it regardless if we like it or not. We spent it, so we got to pay it back.
Speaking of Oklahoma Senator Markwayne, Mullin, and Senator Mullin, you're talking about balancing the budget in the future, not on this big, beautiful. What is the official name of the bill? Sorry for the diversion, but I'm curious. Is it going to be called the Big Beautiful Bill, or is there some boring DC name for it?
I'm sure we're going to come up with some ridiculous, acronym, because we love acronyms up here. But right now, we're going to call it what the president calls it: one big, beautiful. And by the way, he just recently added glamorous. One big, beautiful, glamorous bill. But I don't know what the acronym is.
I got you. Okay. I mean, I think we just go with Big Beautiful Bill. Personally, everybody knows what we're talking about with that one.
I think it makes sense. I mean, we've been talking about.
Yeah, and it'll drive the Democrats completely insane, which makes it even more fun and more worthwhile, right, in and of itself. But for those because look, I get people who call in or who write in, and they're upset, and they start to say things like, "We're just never actually going to deal with the debt, and all this talk about dealing with the debt is hot air." What do you say to them? I mean, at what point do we start to take the debt? Is it realistic that within the Trump administration, at some point, we can actually start to take the $36 trillion debt in the other direction? Or is that is the best we can hope for slowing the increase over time, maybe balancing it here and there?
No, I think we can reverse it, but it takes 3 things to happen for that to happen. One, we got to have sound policy that the economy will respond to. I mean, we got to have sound policy where the economy is going to respond to. 2, we've got to have accurate policies that will drive innovation. And then number three, the politicians, us, we have to be responsible with the taxpayer dollars. And if you do those, then the economy and the spending levels will eventually touch each other and will surpass them. If the GDP can grow right around 3%, and we can hold spending at its current level after we do the reconciliation, just by doing that and not doing additional cuts, which we will do additional cuts. But if we just do those, most economists will tell you that the lines will touch in 2.5 or 3 years, depending on the investment and how much we have. We see that inflation is down to 2.1% already. That's huge, right? When we see the taxes become permanent, and then we see R&D, which will hopefully become permanent, research and development will become permanent, where they can actually write that off. You're going to see that technology field increase here, and you're going to see the growth begin, which is exactly what you do with a business, right? You take out debt for potential earnings because you have a business plan. You borrow on it. The bank borrows, lets you borrow the money because they see your business plan, and they know that your growth is going to eventually surpass enough to be able to pay you off the debt. That's what their gamble is. Well, we feel like we're trying to operate like a business because we have a business guy in office, not just myself, but President Trump himself, and we're taking a business approach to it. We know we can't just simply cut it off right now, which we are. We'd love to, but we just can't find enough to cut all the programs in this short period of time. The more we dig into them, the more DOGE continues to dive in, the more we continue to dive in and see all the waste and fraud that has been taking place in the government, the more we'll continue to cut. And I feel I mean that sincerely. This is the first time that I've ever been up here that I feel very, very confident that we will balance the budget. And the president has made it his plan that that's what he wants. When he's sat down and talked to us, especially those that have a relationship with him, this is part of his Make America Great Again. He understands how to make money, but he also understands debt and how it works.
Senator, before we let you go, we're going to take a hard turn here into just Curiosityville. You were an MMA fighter for how many years?
Well, I fought for 3 years, but before that, we weren't considered professionals, right? So there was additional fights too, but I wasn't as good as a lot of these other guys out there that everybody knows.
Who do you think's the best of all time?
Punches.
Because you've been in that arena, literally inside that cage, right? Who do you think is the best all time? I'm just curious.
Boy, you got to go way back. You got to talk about John Jones. John Jones is just, even though he's had personal issues, the guy has just been a beast. And people call him the GOAT just because he's had, some issues. I still think the guy was just the most dangerous man that stepped in the ring. I mean, the guy is just a stud. But when you start looking at some of these old school guys, Randy Couture, for instance, I mean, here this guy comes in, he wins, he wins 2 different divisions as world titles for the UFC. I think he ended up winning 5 total altogether. I'm trying to pull that off the top of my head. Randy's actually a friend of mine. He's going to be upset that I can't remember his record. But the guy was just absolutely unbelievable. He came in and made some fights and fought up on up weights that most people didn't expect him to be able to do. He embarrassed Ken Shamrock. I mean, literally spanked his butt. And Ken is a guy that I trained with some. So there's just a whole host. It just depends on the year that you want to get to, right? There's a whole bunch of guys that's come in there. Daniel Cormier, DC, which people talk about. Everybody underestimated him, and he did just phenomenal work in there, and he didn't look like he ever belonged in the division. But you got, at one time you had Big Rig, what was his name, Johnny Hendricks, who was walking through everybody, right? And at that time, but now could he compete with today's fighters? That's what today's fighters are, so much better talented than we ever were. Back then, we were just a bunch of bankers. Now these guys, they grew up in the field.
One more lightning round, quick for kind of related. Best martial arts movie of all time in your mind?
Bloodsport.
That is the correct answer. All right. He got it. Senator Markwayne Mullin, everybody. Senator, appreciate you making the time. Come back soon.
All right. See you. Bye.